right. What an exciting time in the life of Caspio. The platform is continually evolving, and as a result, we're able to build great applications. Everywhere from the introduction of formula fields and tables to triggered actions, these enhancements have really allowed us to move to a more no-code environment. In this presentation, I want to show you some examples of applications that have changed my company, as well as some tips for adoption, expansion, and scale. But before I do, I want to take you back to 2014, when we first began using Caspio. In 2012, we spun off from Sears Holdings, and as the result of that, we were still dependent on much of their IT infrastructure, including their point-of-sale system, their logistics, and several other applications and systems. Sears Hometown and Outlet Stores operates 800 stores and 14 regional distribution centers, and we operate two distinct business segments that are separate from Sears Holdings in their purpose. One is our Sears Outlet segment, and in Sears Outlet, we sell reconditioned, refurbished, slightly dented products, and that's kind of a complex process of taking the appliance from reconditioning all the way to resale. And then we also have our Hometown segment, which is our rural market stores. These are operated by franchisees in our small town America. So two distinct segments, completely different from Sears Holdings model of large mall stores and of such. And again, we also operate a combination of company and franchisee locations. As a result of the split, it created a gap in applications. We were reliant on Sears Holdings, and at 2012, it was kind of that, hourglass turned. We knew at some point, someday, we would need to become fully independent from an IT perspective. So from 2012, it was kind of like the gun held to your head, get these things moved off of the Sears Holdings platform. So my background, I come from an internal department within Sears, the loss prevention department and operations. So I'm was responsible for investigations, auditing, all of that back-end operational processes from the corporate office. Initially, I was in a field position. So for about a year after we split from Sears Holdings, a year or two, my department operated on Excel and paper logs. This was a very mundane and monotonous process. Imagine every time we went in to audit a store, we wrote up a paper. I would spend my entire Saturday afternoons writing up, findings of my results from traveling for the week. And in my role as a field operations and loss prevention manager, my manager approached me and asked for me to come up with a better way of tracking our cases and our audits. So in 2014, I built 4 applications in Caspio. Now, there's a little bit of a story with that. Prior to building the applications, I had built a case and audit management platform in Access. Everyone remembers those days. And remember, I was a field operations manager, so I was traveling for a living. I covered 14 states. I was in a coffee shop in Montana when I decided to do some maintenance to the back end of my Access split database served over a network connection when the back end crashed. Everyone's probably been there, not recovered. So I had to make a call to my manager, not a good call. Thankfully, I think that was the last time I've had to make that kind of call since we've been on Caspio. So I made the call, and I had a couple of things I had to tell my manager. The system that a dozen folks relied on was not available. Number 2, we may have lost some of our data since the last time I backed it up. And 3, I had no ETA on when it was going to be fixed. Coupled on the fact that I was in my regular role of working as a field operations manager in the coffee shop there in Montana, I started searching desperately on the internet, looking for a solution, a permanent solution to solve our issues. So about a week later, I discovered Caspio, opened up a free trial account, and the rest is pretty much history there. So today, our applications have grown to over 40 plus applications across the company. We are managing over 3,000 users across the company, and we have a secure access through single sign-on connection. I'll talk about how adoption, expansion, and scale, how single sign-on and cross-app authentication is a great tool to have. So where I am today. So today I spend about half of my time involved in the requirements and the future planning of applications, and the other half of my time actually building applications in Caspio. I've trained our business intelligence team within Sears Hometown and Outlet to utilize Caspio in their day-to-day functions, everywhere from importing and exporting data to creating data visualization tools to report on company data. Today, I'm a primary point of contact and IT liaison for solving business problems within the company. Now, early on, I had heard this term that kept bubbling up from meetings in the executive office, and my boss kept saying, "Why is your name being mentioned so much?" But this idea of solution provider, this term solution provider kept coming up out of those meetings, and they kind of associated that to me as I use Caspio as my secret weapon. Today, I'm in a new role as an application developer and administrator within the IT department. That's within the last year. And Caspio has changed my career trajectory towards the field of IT. So I want to take you through just some examples of how Caspio has grown across the organization. So these are some applications of our 40 plus applications that have supported our business processes. You can see that there's several departments across the company where we are utilizing Caspio. Everything from retail operations to accounting and audit to inventory management, e-commerce, logistics, our service and repair function, our loss prevention and risk management, which that's kind of our largest stack there. That's the department I came out of, and emergency management. We're utilizing Caspio across the company to solve business problems. A few of these applications that I wanted to highlight is our inventory correction and approval processing application. This is an example of a multi-tiered workflow where we have inventory corrections. Imagine a store does their inventory and they just don't count right, so we have to submit an inventory financial correction. This requires a complex set of approvals, multiple approvals, depending on the dollar amount, depending on different conditions of the correction. The Caspio calculated in formula fields makes creating a workflow seamless. So that's one example. And we're also utilizing external communication to our vendor who processes Sears Holdings, that processes our inventory corrections, and that's done through the automation of import and exported tasks. Our second application that I'd like to highlight is our service order system. So our outlet segment is a complex model where our stores have to prepare merchandise for shipment and through multiple steps. This is the application that our distribution center documents the repair and the redistribution of our repaired items. All right, this next slide we're looking at is Caspio Portal. In the white area of the screen, we have our central platform. This serves as our central platform for our stores and all of our employees to access our applications in Caspio. This is via a single sign-on connection. So one single sign-on, they come to this Caspio Portal. Each tile is the applications that they are assigned to and that they have access to. This allows for a seamless user experience and connection to all of our applications. Now, just how are we doing this? In the middle of the screen, in the white area of the screen, we have a frame where I'm using a gallery data page set to a 4-grid width. With some modifications to the style, I'm serving up each tile icon via one single HTML block. Now, in the back end, the data page is receiving parameters that are passed from the user authentication table. Each app has a field in the authentication table with its own app ID. That displays the individual application tiles. Of course, every individual application is protected via a view filtered to that app ID, and that allows our users to cross-app segue into the applications that they are assigned to, all via single sign-on connection. The outer frame is a Bootstrap template. You can find that, through online. SB Admin is the one I love, but this serves as a central platform for all of our users to be able to access applications, as well as I can create system alerts and manage the technical support side. So I'd like to take you through some example screenshots of applications that are in use today. On the left is an application that our district managers utilize to track audits. And on the right is a store closure application. This is an example of our stores that closed as a result of the hurricane last year in Houston. This allows our field district managers to report live to executive management the status of any store. Our next slide are some examples of our e-commerce fulfillment application. This allows us to process our stores, to process e-commerce orders from the time the order comes through, all the way through the fulfillment of the product, the packaging, and everything that goes along with that. That's part of our Sears outlet application. This next slide is an example of many just basic reports that we have set up that demonstrate the use of calculated fields. So in this report, we have calculated fields in the far right column under the order status column. And we have over 20 custom status messages that are looking at multiple tables within Caspio, via SQL statements. And they're returning those messages, and that allows our stores to be able to determine the status of orders at any time. And on our next screenshot here are examples of barcodes and labels that are in use today. Our barcode on the right is an example of our bill of lading that gets generated when we ship an item out through our national delivery application. And on the upper left, we have an example of our parts database where our stores, our distribution centers track their parts. On the last slide here is an example of a company-wide used volunteerism application. Our company allows our employees or gives our employees the opportunity to volunteer one day out of the year, paid on the time. The company, this application, this demonstrates how an application can compete with just a general web development site and allows the embedding of Caspio within the site. So you can see the perfect styling and displaying of a website. All right, so the topic, I want to go into the discussion about adoption, expansion, and scale. So these are some tips that I've had over time. Number one, tips to build trust. We want to showcase our applications to senior leadership. I had examples where the CEO wanted an application built just for him. And I'm thinking, I have 3,000 users, but of course the CEO's, going to come first. But hidden behind that was an immense value. It was the value of being able to show the CEO how Caspio can solve business problems. So it was a great opportunity. Look for opportunities where you can build trust within your organization early on. And the second method that I employed was assigning application owners to empower each department. So it's important to ensure that every application has an owner where they're assigned and they're empowered to make decisions for that application, also to speak to the business results. Secondly, ease of use. I focused on a consistent UI design across the company. Wanted these applications to be very easy to use and familiar as they navigated across applications. I would recommend implementing single sign-on or a cross-app authentication. At one point early on, I had, a separate password for about a dozen applications, and of course that got a little difficult to manage. And you want to create a process for end user support. So today I have a Caspio technical support desk at Sears hometown and outlet stores, served over one method of communication, and we respond to our users within 24 hours. Additionally, business results. You want to formalize your requirements through planning. This is very important because traditional IT and the Caspio come alongside, and sometimes down the road, over the course of the last 5 years, I met some, what I would call resistors. These are folks that didn't really know what they didn't know, coming from traditional IT background. But as the applications delivered business results, those applications could stand shoulder to shoulder with those traditional IT solutions. So it's important to focus on applications that will deliver results very early on and ensure everyone's aligned to that. Like I said, it's one thing to create a great looking application, but behind that, the ultimate goal is a business result. Lastly, expansion and scale. We want to train application owners as developers and provide templates. So this is kind of that baby step approach. As each application has an owner, we would bring in, I would create templates that they could then modify data pages slowly as they built confidence and really control those areas that they're building. Some lessons learned. You want to create a user management plan early on. Like I said, we had several applications with different passwords, and we brought that together through a single sign-on connection, or you could do such with cross-app authentication. I didn't really understand the power of resizing images, but that's a very important part when you're dealing with images on a day-to-day basis. So that's definitely a takeaway. And lastly, as you're expanding your applications, you want to leverage app parameters. What a great way to manage dynamic content instead of having to go into multiple pages and modify them. So in conclusion, Caspio has revolutionized the way Sears Hometown and Outlet has approached solving business problems. Whether you're new to Caspio, already managing a few applications, or have created dozens across your business or enterprise, Caspio can revolutionize the way you solve business problems. Thank you.